This video is sponsored by Book My Garage. It's a simple way to compare pricing from local independent garages for all kind of work. You can compare prices, read reviews and book your appointment online. The prices are great and it couldn't be simpler to use. Please use the link in the video description and help support the channel. Thanks. Hello folks and welcome back. This time we're over at WhatCar. Once again, looking at the fastest depreciating cars of 2022. I'll put a link to this article in the video description, so if you want to go and check out WhatCar, please do so. So I say here, the current shortage of new cars has pushed up used prices, but there are still some models that lose a huge proportion of their value over 3 years. Depreciation is often overlooked when people are deciding what car to buy, but while other running costs such as fuel consumption, servicing and road tax are important, they rarely add up to the amount a new car loses in its first 3 years of ownership. So here they're looking at the latest resale value data to reveal 10 models that expect to lose the highest percentage of their original price in the first 3 years. All figures are based on trade-in value, for an example that's covered 36,000 miles. So as their trade-in values that are used on this, which is the official value of a car, is that trade-in value, I would have a wager with you that you won't be able to find one for sale at anything close to these prices. What this does do is give you a good indication of the ones that depreciate the most. So even though you can see the top one here is this Maserati Ghibli, resale value of 41,500, that's probably more like 50,000. But it's one of the fastest depreciating cars. So I would take the resale value price with a bit of a pinch of salt. You know it's one of the fastest depreciating cars, okay? Sorry to labour that point, but just want to try and make that sort of clear. Also, please remember that I'm recording this video in May of 2022. So if you're watching this months or years down the line, it might not make too much sense. Off we go. So the 10th worst depreciating car in the UK is the Maserati Ghibli V8 Trofeo. List price on that one's £107,000. At 3 years old and with 36,000 miles on the clock, it's going to be worth 41,500 on that trading value. So that's dropped 66 grand and has only retained 38% of its value. I think the Ghibli's the best looking executive car. Unfortunately, a V8 Ghibli at over 100 grand, whew, that's a tough sell, isn't it? Number 9 is the Fiat 500L. Bit of an ugly duckling this one, but they are certainly practical. And this is the 1.4 Hey Google model, to be very specific. List price on that one's just under 21 grand and the value drops to 8 grand. That's a price drop of £12,800, retained 38.5% of its value. It's just a little bit of an old model now. It was always a bit of an ugly duckling, a bit quirky, but certainly very practical. But I think they're showing their age a little bit now. Right, next is the DS9, the 1.6 PureTech 225 Rivoli edition. List price on that one's nearly 45 grand, and the value now is 16,750. So it's dropped nearly 28 grand and it's retained 37.5% of its value. I'm not massively surprised by this because it's a huge sort of luxurious saloon that's designed to compete with the Germans. A French car for 45 grand. I don't know, if you've got 45 grand, would you buy that or would you buy a 5 Series? But like many of these cars, probably makes a really good used buy because you're probably getting quite good value for money on a car that's depreciated so much. Okay, number 7 is the BMW 8 Series convertible, specifically the 840i S-Drive M Sport. List price is nearly 84 grand and that drops to 31,200. So that's dropped 53 grand nearly, retaining just 37% of its value. What do they say here? The BMW 8 Series convertible shows that a premium badge doesn't guarantee strong resale values. There's still a lot to like about it. Performance is effortless, it handles surprisingly well for such a big drop top, and the infotainment system is the best around. I am slightly puzzled by that. The only thing I can think of is when people want a soft top car, they probably want something a bit smaller. I mean, that is a big car. Yeah, that's probably one that's a bit of a used bargain, in relative terms, of course. Number 6, Peugeot 108, 1 litre 72 collection. List price of 15 grand. Resale price of 5.5. Price dropped 9,400 and it's retained 37% of its value. What? As a city car, you'd expect the 108 to feel nimble in town, and it doesn't disappoint. What's more, it's very cheap to run right until the point when you sell it and you see how much you've lost in depreciation. This one is way off, I think. I don't think you'd be able to get one of those with that age and mileage for anywhere near 5.5 grand. But I'm really surprised by that because, you know, these small cars tend to hold their value quite well. because they're massively popular, aren't they? Lexus LS, but specifically it's the 500h. A lot of these cars you'll find will be the absolute top spec, the massive engine. And of course nowadays people are steering clear of massive engines because of tax implications and more people moving to EV and all these kind of things. So this is the 500h, list price is 82 grand, resale value of just under 29. Price drop of 53 grand, so it's retained 35% of its value. Lexus flagship saloon offers hybrid power, a higher quality interior and loads of standard equipment. However, it's let down by its lumpy ride, disappointing engine refinement and weak resale values. Number 4 is the Fiat Tipo. To be fair, they always feature on these lists. 1 litre. List price of this one is 20 grand, resale value 6,850, so it's lost 12,745 in the first 3 years, retained just under 35% of its value. They say here the Tipo is spacious and safe, big discounts are available on new cars. You'll need every penny you can to save up front though, to offset what you'll lose in the first 3 years. I don't know anyone that's buying a Tipo for 20 grand, I must admit. Number 2 is the Fiat 500c, and specifically it's the 1 litre yachting edition. List price of that one's 22 grand. That's a lot of money for a little 500c, isn't it? Resale value 7.5 grand. So it loses about 14.5, and that retains just 34% of its value. Lots of people love the 500c's retro styling, so it's a huge seller. However, that's a double-edged sword with the sheer number of second-hand examples that are available pushing down values. Number 2 here, also featured on this list last year, is the Maserati Quadriporte. It's the V8 Trofeo, 130 grand for one of those new. Resale value 44.5, so it's dropped 85.5 grand in the first 3 years, retained just 34% of its value. Quadriporte is supposed to be a sporty take on the luxury saloon, but in reality doesn't feel especially sharp. What's more, the ride can be brittle and the infotainment system feels dated. All of this makes it easy to understand why it depreciates as quickly as the V8 Trofeo version accelerates. The fastest depreciating car in the UK, according to this, is the Audi A8 50 Tdi Quattro Vorsprung L. List price is 103 grand, and the value drops to just 34 grand after 3 years. So that's dropped £68,860 and retained just 33% of its value. Sometimes you just don't get what you deserve in life. The AA is more refined than its chief rival, the Mercedes S-Class, plus its ride is incredibly supple and the interior feels like it's been constructed to the very highest standards. Yet despite all these strengths, it loses a higher proportion of its value than any other car currently on sale. When you think about this, a lot of the A8s are used as chauffeur cars, particularly one like this. You're looking at your top spec diesel and it's the long wheelbase version. 103 grand. I just wonder how much demand there's been for chauffeur cars in recent years with so many people now working from home. I don't know if you know, everything that's been going on has had any bearing on this or not really, but it seems like a huge drop. These huge cars have always dropped quickly though. These big cars like A8s and BMW 7 Series have often made really good buys once they get to a few years old. You can often get one for a similar price to a used example of a couple of levels down, like, you know, a 7 Series being a similar price to a used 3 Series after a few years, despite there being a huge difference in the initial purchase price. So if you've got the money to run one, they can be a very good used buy. There we go, bit of fun that. Please follow me on social media. I'm going to pop the links on the screen. There's also a little link to my link tree, which is where you can find me everywhere. You can buy me a coffee from there. You can find some of my key links in there, all my social media channels. So please follow me on those and keep watching the videos. Give this one a thumbs up and please subscribe if you haven't already done so. If you like this kind of content, I provide plenty of it. And if you are already subscribed, please click that little notification bell so you get told when I release a new video. Thanks ever so much for watching, folks. See you next time.